Hi guys, we are here with MQM team and we are starting this kind of experience, and today we have coffee, cakes and legal tech. We have a very wise guest, and well, he will tell you a little bit more about him. We also have Bianca that will introduce herself. We have Marcin and Miriam in the room assisting us. They will also say hi to you guys. So with no further ado, I will let our guest to introduce himself and Bianca, and we can just then write this legal tech question. So,
Okay, my name is Raymond Blijd. I was born in Suriname, studied law here in the Netherlands, and now I'm full-time an entrepreneur. Started two companies, or started one company and started one community. And we're here talking about legal tech in general.
so Bianca, who are you? Tell me more.
Thank you. So my name is Bianca Philo and I'm 23 years old, born and raised in South Africa. I study international law and I'm an intern at MQM Legal. And I am very interested in the topic of legal tech. And today we're going to be discussing the topic of legal tech companies which rise and die, which is a very interesting topic, and I'm very happy to be part of this podcast.
Okay, so Marcin, say hi to everybody.
Hello everybody. You can't see me because I'm behind the camera, but I'm here, taking care of everything. And there's also Miriam.
And Miriam is saying hi to you all, but she's really like in the end of the room, so you will not see her. But she's always very pleased to help us in the back scenery that you don't see. So Raymond, a company and a community, but I think I always think it's important to start with concepts and to start explaining what is legal tech.
Oh, it depends on who you ask. That's a typical lawyer answer. But the way we look at it is, maybe you can take a few steps back. So Legalcomplex is a company that started basically at the beginning of this year. And it started as a side project, doing experiments in the legal field. One of the most successful experiments became Legal Pioneer, which is a data set that is compiled of companies that impact the legal industry in general. Now, why do we use the terminology impacting the legal industry? Is that the way we look at legal tech is not necessarily the technology that supports lawyers, but we look at technology that impacts the law in general. So to give you some examples, you have an application or an app called TurboTax that helps consumers file their taxes. That's not an app that lawyers use, that's an app that consumers use. But we're also looking at, for instance, what we call civic tech. Civic tech involves technology that helps you exercise your legal rights and protects you from harm. So for instance, protects you from harassment. We have, for instance, a app in our database that warns you of airstrikes in Syria, which is crowdsourced. But basically, the technology that does the things that we expect the government to do for us, but is not able to. Then we also have, for instance, fintech, financial technology, and that usually revolves around payments and transactions. So the technology that helps you regulate how a payment or a transaction is being done. Usually in the past we used to do that with contracts. Now there are a lot of technology surrounding how you confirm who the person is who you're doing business with. So all those technologies to detect fraud we also include. So it's a broad scope of technologies that impact the law, and we try and find the companies that do that and the data behind those companies to get a sense of where the legal industry is going and how it's going to evolve over time.
So I'm curious. So you focus in the companies, but do you perceive the need to start focusing as well in what governments are doing from the public sector? Do you perceive that as a possible?
So here's the interesting thing. I wrote an article a while back. I forgot the title, but it was about which companies were acquiring legal tech companies. One of the biggest or the companies that were acquiring the most legal technology companies were companies doing business with the government. They were looking at, for instance, blockchain and voting. They were looking at how to manage all of the practices and how all the regulations are being executed and how to monitor those things. And they were actually one of the biggest acquirers of legal technology in general. So maybe to your point, yes, the government and how it operates is also one of the biggest, would you say, buyers of legal technology.
But do you see them also as the ones that can produce the technology itself?
Well, if they're buying, that maybe indicates that they're struggling to produce it or create it themselves.
I mentioned to you this because I come from Portugal, and you have now an initiative from the Minister of Justice called Hub da Justiça in Portuguese, so Justice Hub. And it's exactly to create the space for programs and technology be developed for the minister itself.
So, interesting thing. There was a couple of months ago. We saw also some initiatives in the UK where the governments were ordering large tenders and also giving contracts to companies that were not necessarily legal tech companies, but basically what they were trying to do is get the technology in to help them assist and support their citizens better. So, and we also saw that, I think, and forgive me if I mistaken the dates, but there was also one initiative where the UK government set aside, I think it was 2 million or something like that, for specifically, one was to get a overview of the legal tech ecosystem, and other one was to support companies in the legal tech space. So maybe that trend is now progressing across Europe, that more governments are looking at, for instance, supporting citizens to exercise their rights and how the government interacts with those citizens. And also looking at, there's a lot of regulations, EU regulations. One great example is flight claims. You are able to claim your or get reimbursed if your flight gets delayed over 3 hours, I think. Yeah, well, there are now a lot of companies that help support that. You can file your claim with the flight
Company?
With the flight company, yeah. So, and those initiatives for supporting more companies to try and exercise those rights are initially started by the governments. So, yeah.
Okay, so maybe I think it would be, before we go a little bit more for the technical part itself of the companies and the topic, that you could give us a little bit of the storytelling element, the background. How did you came to this ecosystem? What attracted you personally to work in this field? So we would like to know a lot about the topic, but I think we would like to know the men's side of the story. Yeah.
Two things. So I had a great job, and I was doing this as a side project, and I saw, and the side project was gathering data, and I saw that there was this decline in getting new legal technology companies founded. So the number was dropping as of 2017, and I thought maybe I can try and do something to get that number up. That's one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is that I think it is essential for society in general that we have technology that adheres to the law. So the more companies get help with technology complying to the law, the safer our society would be. So the mission for our community Legal Pioneer is also to power world peace with data. And the data we're trying to provide is what are the more successful legal tech companies, what are the more successful legal tech initiatives, what helps companies and citizens feel safe in their environment and know that they're getting a fair treatment. So that's the other part of the equation. That's how I made the decision to quit my day job and do this full time.
And describe us a little bit more about this community. Who is part of this community?
So it started as a community, now it's just a database, and people from all over the world are providing data. And basically what they're providing is, hey, Raymond, we have a few new companies, just add them to the database. And collectively we have more data on the successful projects out there. So that's one part of the community. The other part is trying to structure the data in a certain way that we can glean some insights from that. One of the reasons, one of the last articles we wrote was how many legal tech companies or companies that impact the legal industry are still around, are still alive. How we were able to do that is we already had compiled over 12,000 URLs of companies that have existed at one point. And then we used what we call a link washer to first clean up and deduplicate those links, and then figure out which of those companies or which of those URLs are still operating, are giving a response back. And then we discovered that we had actually a good result. Over 900 companies came back with a negative result. But over 3,000, I think in total it was like 4,000, came back with a positive response. So we calculated that we initially are fundamentally were creating more companies than companies vanishing basically from the internet.
So good news, one would say. I see Bianca is
Yes.
taking a lot of notes. I'm curious about the progress of our own questions. So till now, Bianca, what really got your curiosity?
So as a law student, we don't speak a lot about legal tech companies. It's not something I'm very clued up on. So it's interesting to me to see what legal tech companies, what difference it can make in our society. What is the future of legal tech companies?
Excellent question. And the reason why it's an excellent question is one of our missions, our goals is to try and educate more students into how to be an entrepreneur in the legal space. One simple way to do that is to give them a lot of examples of successful companies that have gone before them. One interesting story that came in the last couple of months was a student who dropped out of a young student, I think she's 23, who dropped out and created her own company in the legal space, and was able to raise over 100 million in venture capital. See,
Amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
But she started out with she started out with 10 million, then she raised 100 million. But one of the things is she found out a model where she can effectively go to an investor and say, listen, I can take your 100 million and I can return that investment. And the model behind their company is a pure legal company trying to do business with a legal background. So to answer your question, there are many venues where students can have an impact, what I call an impact for peace. One of them is we all create rules to create a level playing field, to create a safe society. But it's really hard to not maintain, but what's the word I'm looking for? Where to police those rules.
Monitor, yeah.
Monitor. So If you can create technology that helps companies